Hiya and welcome back to the Herd Wave, or welcome if you're new around here. So yeah, this is part 2 of the NorthFin breakdown. If you haven't already watched part 1, go check that out first before you watch this one. And without further ado, let's get into this. So in this video we're going to break down in a little bit more detail some of these ingredients that is included in the NorthFin food. So as I touched on in part 1 a little bit about DHA, the omega fatty acids. So not all omega-3 has DHA in it. There are around 11 types of omega-3, but the 3 predominant ones that stick out or what are going to concern us really is the DHA, the LAA and EDA. Your EPA and your DHA, they're all found in seafoods. They're commonly referred to as marine omega-3, which is strange because they're not. It doesn't actually come from marine fish; it comes from freshwater fish. So I don't really know why that is. Your body does not store it, and it does not convert it into energy. It uses it for inflammatory sources. ALA, so that is your flax seeds, it is your kelp, it is your spinach, all of that sorts of stuff. ALA converts to APA and DHA. So APA, that also produces single molecules, and what that does is it helps stop inflammation. So that's another really great way of getting that sort of natural inflammatory source. So looking at the comparisons here, I've got the percentages on the side. I'm going to go off the jumbo one. The rest of them are based off. The only differences is in the crude protein and the ash as well. So basically your crude fat is 5% in every one of them. Crude fibre is 5% in every one of them. Your moisture is 9% in every one of them. And when it comes to the crude protein, so a jumbo one is 44. So your veggie one, that is 36% crude protein. Your krill, your gold krill, that is 42% crude protein, and your marine is 36% crude protein. So I'm going to break that down on the side because sometimes that's a little bit hard to understand. So what it is it's not protein content. So say for the jumbo, for example, it isn't 44% protein, it's 44% crude protein. So essentially what that means is the amount of nitrogen present in the food. So your crude fibre, it's 5% in all of it. So with crude fibre, it always should be under 7%. If it's not under 7%, then you've got an issue there. It limits the amount of undigestible materials in there. So your soluble carbohydrates, things like that. So that's why it always needs to be under 7%. So this one is 5 in everything. So your crude fat, that is all 5% as well. So that is your lipids. They need fat in there. So that's a healthy source. Your moisture content, that's all 9%, because the less moisture that's in it, the less it's going to spoil, so it's going to have a longer shelf life. It's to do with the way it's essentially caught and frozen straight away. So your ash is 9%, with your veggie and your marine being 12% to be higher. So that's coming from your kelp and your spirulina. That's why that is at 12%. In this is wheat flour. So this is an antioxidant and it produces fibre. Now your organic kelp, like I touched on in part 1, so this is your natural source of seaweed. This is your blue pigmentation. This is where you're going to get that natural source of blue pigmentation from. So you get your spirulina. So this grows in salt water and it grows in fresh water. It contains magnesium and it contains potassium, which I think maybe that's, sometimes a lot of people think that just goes in salt water, but it doesn't, also goes in fresh water as well. I think it's mainly to do with those 2 properties that's in it, in the link into salt water, but it's not actually true. It grows in both salt water and fresh water. So your garlic, garlic's added in there because it's a natural parasite deterrent. Garlic is well renowned for its antioxidant properties. You know, in people it can be seen to lower the cholesterol, lower blood pressure, things of that nature, where in fish what it actually does is it's an antioxidant for them. So astaxanthin, I hope I'm saying that right, again another antioxidant property. It's a natural way of growing your fish fast, so it'll improve disease resistance, things of that nature. So it's more like a breeding sort of supplement, and it reduces embryonic mortalities, things of that nature. Also, it's really good for the skin control as well. So that is essentially what that brings to the table. The clay, I'm going to write the name on the screen. So the clay that's used, so or the bentonite one, it helps the digestive system as well. Helps colours within the fish, things like that. So all of that clay is again another sort of like binding agent, but a good one in that sense. Go on to your vitamins and things like that. So your vitamin A accelerant, so this is gonna help with bone development, the maintenance of healthy skin, healthy vision, things of that nature. So that one in there again added in, it's all your extra vitamins that's included in it. So your vitamin C, again, like us, they can't produce their own vitamin C, so they need to get it from an external source. So vitamin C, it's one of those things that they need to get from their food. And you look at what these extra vitamins and minerals actually do for the fish. It's really quite impressive to look and see what is actually in the food itself. Again, you've got your folic acid in there. All of that's added in, which helps with your breathing and things like that. Your folic acid, it's all that cell manipulation, like cell membrane function, things like that. Your normal red blood cells, it's all going to go into that. It's going to stop like poor growth, loss of appetite. You can't have fin fragility. If you think about fins as like tiny little bones, all of that, it's going to help. A folic acid is going to help with because they're so fragile that you get breakages in them all the time, which often will look like fungus and things like that. But it's actually not. It's just fin breakages. Even down to spleen increase in sensitivity to bacterial infections. A lot of that you're gonna have if you've got your folic acid in there. It's gonna help prevent things like that. That helps control tube defects in pregnancy, things of that nature. So a lot of these ingredients that are actually listed in it, it's good stuff. It's when you look into what these ingredients actually does and what these vitamins and minerals actually do for your fish, it's not a basic thing. It's actually goes into a lot of detail with it. Your chlorine chlorinide, I mean, even though it's not a B vitamin, it is classed as, it's in that little section with B vitamins, even though it's not technically a B vitamin. Even all of that's going to protect the liver from toxins, things like that. Fernious sulfate, this is going to help to prevent iron deficiencies. It's going to help to carry the oxygen around the bloodstream, around the body. Help to promote healthy red blood cells, which is going to carry more oxygen around the fish's body. Your selenium trace minerals, so all of that's going to help with fertility. It's going to help with your immune system response. Even zinc C, so it's a trace mineral, so it's going to help with your growth of the cells, your DNA, all the DNA that's going into it. It's going to help make that stronger, susceptible to less infections, less diseases, less fatalities as well. So overall making the fish healthier and stronger for if you do choose to reproduce your fish, breeding fish, things of that nature. It all goes into it so to produce good, strong, healthy, good quality fish as well. Rosemary extract, which is brilliant in itself, antioxidant properties, antifungal, you know, all that good stuff in there. You'll see rosemary extract in a lot of human grade food as well, because it's good stuff. It's really good for antioxidants and anti-properties, things like that. In the veggie formula, there is also the organic kelp, which is just basically a brown source of algae, brown type of algae. That's the only difference in that one compared to, say, like the jumbo one or any of the ones. I'm going to read another quote here. So, easy digestible ingredients, completely 100% filler, artificial hormone and pigment free. Now that in itself, when you break down those three things, what actually is involved in those, you'd be surprised. I'm going to use probably the easiest example, digestion of a protein source. So say for example dogs can only digest one protein source at a time. So if you feed them food that has more than one protein source in it, so they'll do that protein source. Then if you add another protein source into that, then their digestion's going to have to work a little bit harder. Then you add another protein source into that, it's working a little bit harder. So it's making everything within their digestive system, their intestines, everything like that works so much harder. And by the end of it, it's just exhausted, basically. To one for a better word, it's reached its limit. It can't digest anything more, and that's when issues tend to happen. That's the key word here, is making it an easy digestible protein source. I'm going to look at the first one. So completely 100% filler free. So when you think about the word filler, what does it mean? It means to take up space that is remaining, not as a core part of something. I'm going to use the example of dog food again, because it's probably the easiest to understand. I'm not going to call out any dog brands or anything like that, because that's not what this video is about. It's not about hating on things. It's about understanding nutrition. It's about understanding what is on the packets, what is written on the back of those ingredients, because it's all there. It's just a case of if you take the time to understand what each thing actually means. So with dog food, sometimes you have healthier fillers in there, such as rice. Rice is a good healthy filler, good source of carbohydrate. That's generally what a filler is used for. It's a source of carbohydrate. On the flip side to that, if you see a lot of things that says cereals and wheat, things like that, that's not so good, because that filler is not the best. Grain-free option, which sometimes a lot of people do prefer, is to go sweet potato. So that is the filler that is in for a grain-free option, and that is the source of carbohydrate as a filler for that. If we look at the core ingredients that are actually in NorthFin food, you can see it says whole Arctic krill meal, high DHA omega-3 herring meal, whole sardine meal, whole kelp as a main ingredient. When you see the word whole, that means it is as a whole. What you do want to look out for is if you see the word derivatives. Now, if you're not 100% sure what derivatives is, or if you don't know what derivatives is, I'll go into a little bit of detail about it. Just a little disclaimer, this could be something that might be triggering for some people, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to appreciate that I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable. You've clicked on this for a nutrition video for food, but it is important that I explain what derivatives actually are. So if that's not what you're interested in, I'm going to put a little timestamp here where you can fast forward to, so you don't have to listen to this. So, or if you've got kids watching, I can appreciate that not everybody would feel comfortable listening to that or has clicked on for that reason. So fast forward to that bit and get on with listing the good ingredients. So the word derivatives, after the slaughter of the animal has taken place and vital organs are removed and distributed and core pieces of meat are removed, it's basically anything that's left over. So beaks, feet, hooves, tails, genitals, eyes and skin, things of that nature. So basically everything that would be on a carcass of an animal could be in those derivatives, because it's not specified, and legally it doesn't have to be. If it says animal derivatives, it could be anything. So I hope maybe that clears up just a little bit of when you see that word on food packages. Perhaps stress the importance of ingredients in a food, whether it be for a dog, cat or aquatic species, to look into the lists of ingredients and what exactly that entails, and look at the wording specifically of what is said. Where you see things like whole, that's a good thing, it means it is whole. Derivative, on the other hand, not so much, not so good. Food fit for human consumption, which basically means that it will have some of the essential organs that get most of the nutrients from, so heart, lungs, liver, etc. That is primarily where most of the nutrition is kept. Not to initially say that other areas are bad in nutrition, it just means that in the wild, an animal would, after a kill, would go for these main areas. It's the vital organs, because it holds the most nutrition for them. It is more beneficial for their survival. This is in no way meant to offend anybody or to judge anybody, anything like that. The more we know, the more that we can learn, and the more people learn about different things, the better your understanding is of things and how things work. Like I say, things are evolving all the time. This isn't about preaching to anybody. This is just about just educating and understanding what actually is involved, and just maybe showing how to break down the ingredients of food. Alright, and we're back, people. So if you did skip, that's absolutely fine. If not, then maybe we have a little bit of more understanding on what that actually is. So less waste. So feeding a highly digestible all marine diet to your fish allows them to stay healthy, reach their full size and colour spectrum while producing less waste. So essentially, the right source of ingredients and them using them in the right way will produce less waste. So if you have a lot of stuff in there that is not nutritional beneficial for them, pumping through unnatural colours and preservatives, things like that, and I don't just mean in the sense of for taste wise, I mean for enhancing colours, you are going to have more waste because your fish isn't using that. It doesn't need stuff like that. It's just going to expel that, which in turn is going to create more waste in your aquarium, and it's going to make your life harder because it's going to mean more frequent water changes. It's going to mean cloudy water. Looking at food is maybe, if you are having issues with bad water quality or cloudiness in your water, or issues with your fish as a whole, maybe first step would be to, obviously my first step is always check water parameters. That's number one. But after you've done that, and if you have seen that all of that is balanced, then perhaps maybe look at food and nutrition of what is actually going on there. So another quote which is actually on their website is, NorthFin formulas are well balanced and designed for a wide range of freshwater and saltwater, herbivores, omnivores and carnivorous fish. So each formula is actually designed for a specific fish, whether it be carnivore, whether it be a herbivore, or whether it be an omnivore, both fresh and saltwater alike. It is formulated specifically for their dietary requirements. And then another point on their website is, why NorthFin? Their answer to this would be because fish deserve better food, free from fillers, artificial pigments, no added hormones, byproducts and low-grade ingredients. So again, going back to the added hormones that's put into certain fish foods, a lot of the times in fish food it would have an artificial hormone that is put into the fish food, and essentially what this does is it tricks the fish into growing faster. It's pumping a hormone in, an unnatural hormone, and it makes the fish grow way too fast over a short period of time, and it's not good for them at all. It's not good on their bodies, it's not good on their digestion, it's not good on their immune system, it's not good on their development. It makes them develop way too fast and it puts extra strain on them, on their bodies. So this food has none of that. You don't have to worry that that's going to be in there, because it's not. Not only does it say that it doesn't, but look at the ingredients and you'll see that it doesn't have anything in there that would promote such a thing. It's all natural ways of growing. And when you look at things like colour enhancers, certain pigments fish species can't produce themselves. They need to get it from an external source, which is going to be their diet. So there's 4 pigment areas, and I will put them on the screen one by one because I can't pronounce them. So the first one is yellow, second one is black and brown, third one is the orange and red, and the fourth one is blue. So they naturally can't produce the yellow pigment and they can't produce the red and orange pigment, which is why you see a lot of fish foods will be red in colour. That is because of the added pigment that is put into the food to bring out those red colours in your fish. So basically what happens is the fish will take this concentrated pigment into their cells of their body, and that goes beneath their scales, and basically that pigment, or the dye that's put into it creates havoc in their bodies and havoc with their nervous systems. And a lot of the times with red pigment especially, it is a lot larger in size than some of the other colours. If you find it hard to absorb it, in the intestines, the intestinal tract, and things like that, and it can cause blockages sometimes with the pigment being so large. In turn can stop digestion flowing properly, so it can stop other vital nutrients getting through to your fish. So you might have an absolutely brilliant coloured red, orange, beautiful fish, but its intestinal tract is absolutely shot. It can cause stunting in growth, it can cause reproductive issues, it can even lead to fish being sterile. So if you have a good line of fish, or people who deal with wild caught fish, you start adding those extra artificial pigments in there, that's going to affect them. So one of the telltale signs that this actually has been added into your food, if you're not 100% sure on how to check this on the back of your fish food, is check your fish's feces. So if it is red in colour, or your water's turning red, or perhaps your substrate, things like that, that might be an indication that there is some sort of pigmentation in the food that you're using. So if you're thinking about that, it's like, well, so does this mean all fish that are brightly coloured and that you see at different shows and things like that, do they all have this pigment in them? Do they all have artificial pigment? No, because you can get it from natural sources as well. So the most predominant way of getting the red pigment of a natural source is to get it from shrimp, krill and salmon. So again, if you look at the ingredients that's in NorthFin, krill, salmon, that's where that natural pigmentation of red is going to come from. So it's something that will be naturally in their diet. It will be something that these types of fish would naturally be eaten, and that's how they get that red pigmentation from that food. It's a natural source, and xanthan is actually 100 times stronger than vitamin E. So your yellow pigments, where do you get them from? So things like corn, obviously corn in the sea, marine fish. So obviously corn is one source and eggs is another source. So eggs. So that's where they get that from. So your blues and greens, so mainly the blue would come from algae and seaweed. So that is where they would get that source of pigmentation colour from, your blues and your greens, things like that. It all comes from seaweed or algae. In a sense of putting artificial hormones into fish food and giving to your fish, essentially what it does is it tricks your fish into maturing faster. It's pumped with testosterone, but it'll set off false colour pigmentation, which can trick your fish into breeding a lot earlier than is necessary for them, unhealthy for their bodies itself to be producing offspring at such a young age. So the early maturity of these fish, or the appearance of early maturity, tricking them into this, can lead to them being stunted, it can lead to them being sterile. It causes a lot of damage to your fish reproductively. You want to be careful with stuff like that. The overall health of the fish is more important than how many that they produce. If that is what you're into, if you are into breeding fish, then I would maybe look at the long-term effects of that. See the end goal rather than quick results. Sometimes it does take fish a long time to reproduce. Like these guys, for example. These are my wild caught blue Zaire frontoses, and these guys haven't reproduced for me yet. Could be a number of reasons, but it's not. I mean, I do like to breed fish, don't get me wrong, but I would never put them in that sort of situation where it was a necessity for them to reproduce in order for me to keep them. They'll do it when they're good and ready, and I'll enjoy making the video on that when they do actually reproduce for me. But in the meantime, they're just happy being themselves, not a care in the world. To be a fish. Okay, so this has been part 2. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Don't forget to like, thumbs up, subscribe, click the notification bell, because it'll let you know every time I upload a new video. And yeah, hopefully I'll catch you in my next one. Bye. So this is going to be part 2 of the NorthFin fish food AstraZeneca. I can't even say it. Cichlid formula. Yeah, LAN. Sorry, that's not a thing. So your body, it does not store this and it does not convert this into energy. It uses for